And thank you all for, I guess, being part of this wonderful effort, which helped us to bring in some of our first um, additional dollars to help us meet the need in this community. Let me start in just again by thanking you and talking a little bit about SOS. For those who are not familiar with SOS Community Services, we've been around for 50 years now. This is our 50th year of service. Our mission is to promote housing stability and family self-sufficiency through collaboration, care, and respect. We'll talk throughout the presentation about some of the different programs which we have and how they've been impacted by the COVID crisis. Our resource center has our food pantry as well as our walk-in services. And that's really where much of the United Way support went to, because we're seeing a huge increase in that service department. We also have a children's program called SOS Parents as Teachers that we'll talk about, as well as our supportive housing programs, which include our emergency shelter program, our rapid rehousing program, and we also have an eviction prevention program for those who are holding housing choice vouchers in the community. The economic impact, of course, has been great on our consumers. About 68% of parents in our housing and children's services programs who were working before the pandemic have lost their jobs. And only 12% of them have been able to access unemployment benefits to date. So for families who exited homelessness, got a place to live with SOS's help, got a job, started paying some rent, the pandemic and job loss have severely set back their family goals. One mom who had been homeless was really making progress in our housing programs and as well as our Parents as Teachers program. She had saved money and planned to open a nail salon, had even rented a space for the new business. Due to the shelter-in-place order which came down, she could not open her business, and it's really unclear if she's going to be able to achieve her dream after the quarantine is lifted. In terms of health impact for the families that we serve, the virus is really taking a toll on some of our families. Two moms in our SOS Parents as Teachers family are sisters. Their father died from the virus. They've not been able to hold a funeral. Their grieving is just being extended kind of mercilessly. We have a single dad in our Parents as Teachers program who's a double leg amputee and has an infant child. His grandmother is his only family support, and he lives with her along with the child. She is now hospitalized on a ventilator. He's hoping she'll recover because he's just terrified if that were not to be the case. He has very few other supports other than our parent educators. We have two mothers in our program who are pregnant and terrified to have a baby in the hospital during the pandemic. Our caseworkers are working with them, giving them information about COVID-19 and encouraging them to still access the hospital, and we're hopeful that they do. We have one baby in our Parents as Teachers program who has contracted the virus. The baby also has a seizure disorder, and so it's been quite precarious over the last week, but the baby is now being treated and has been released to come back home. One of the first things we noticed when the pandemic started and businesses started shutting down is that many of the places that people experiencing homelessness might access a restroom or a place to wash their hands, all of a sudden were shuttered. They were not available to them. And of course, hand washing is so important to be able to stem the tide and flatten the curve in this pandemic. So we found that many people experiencing homelessness no longer had access to toileting and hygiene facilities. So SOS placed portable toilets that you'll see there in the picture with sinks, water, and hand sanitizer at both of our Ypsilanti locations. We have two offices in downtown Ypsilanti, one on River Street and one on Huron Street. It was one of the first things that we did in March when shelter in place started. People are using these hygiene facilities every day and are so grateful for them. We make sure that they're maintained on a weekly basis, and if the flow into them continues to increase, we'll increase the servicing of them as well. In terms of our food program, you heard Pam say that Food Gatherers is just experiencing an astronomical increase, and that is certainly what we're seeing at our pantry as well. Requests for food have increased by 30%. We find that families in our programs are not always able to obtain the free lunches that schools are giving out, and many times the lunches don't really last the week. With kids home all day, as many of us can attest to, they just are going through the food, and so it's hard to keep food in the house. In addition to our regular pantry patrons, we're also seeing many new people who are requesting groceries who have not ever used a food pantry before. So in addition to the food we're giving out, we're also giving out a lot of information about the other resources for food available in the community, other pantries, what their hours are, that sort of thing. We anticipate that this need will continue to grow throughout the summer as summer children's programming is canceled and unemployment continues to rise. Anyone in need of food can get free groceries on Tuesday afternoons from 1 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. and Wednesday mornings from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Our food pantry is located at 114 North River Street in downtown Ypsilanti. You'll see we are the blue octagon house, which is easy to locate. No appointments are necessary. We ask everyone to just spread the word so that no one needs to go hungry, in great part due to our wonderful partnership with Food Gatherers. We are taking extra precautions in the food program, as you can imagine, to prevent the spread of the virus. Staff and volunteers are wearing masks. People are lining up 6 feet apart. We mark the concrete on the sidewalk so that people stay within the 6-foot span. Groceries are being pre-bagged and offered out on our back deck, and that minimizes the people coming through our facility itself and helps us to maintain the social distancing. It's quite cramped inside the building, so it allows us to maintain that 6 foot of separation. In terms of our housing programs, to date, we've moved 7 families into housing since the quarantine started. We continue to work with landlords and work with families on finding permanency for them. We also were able to open a new unit of shelter, having only email contact with the owner and an exchange of the keys, and then we were in and setting it up. These are the photos of the new shelter. What SOS does is a little different from IHN and Staples Family Center in that we master lease family homes in the Ypsilanti area to be able to provide shelter to larger families and also multi-generational families. We also offer, in addition to emergency shelter, we offer rapid rehousing for families exiting homelessness. Rapid rehousing includes rental assistance for about 9 to 12 months, in addition to case management services. Since most families who had been paying part of their rent lost work and income, SOS has been able to pay full rents for all families in our programs in the month of April and May, and will continue to do so in June depending on the needs of the families. Caseworkers now use video conferencing to meet families and do intakes. We're making sure that families have internet and phones so that they can do virtual meetings and access educational resources for their children who are home from school. Comcast and AT&T are offering free internet during the pandemic. Technology really helps families stay connected with loved ones and helps break up the isolation, particularly for the children. Our caseworkers continue to do porch drops of cleaning supplies, food, diapers, wipes, anything that the family might need. Families are being challenged to find furnishings and household goods, with many of the thrift stores currently closed. Our Parents as Teachers program is a nationally recognized program which traditionally provides in-home parenting education and support to families with children under the age of 6. During the quarantine, parent educators are conducting virtual home visits via video conferencing. During the pandemic, families in our Parents as Teachers program have many of the same challenges as families in our housing programs. Resources provided by the parent educators include porch drops of food, and diapers, as well as information about where to get more food, what to do if you have no baby wipes, and educational and enrichment activities for children who are not at school. One of our favorite things, our parent educators send out blasts every morning to all the families in our program, telling them about different, just like there's a thing on the Cincinnati View. I think there's Fiona the hippo, baby hippo at the Cincinnati View. So they send out information and things that the children can watch online. Other resources that they have been helping families with is including information about toilet training, tantrums, mindfulness, and a virtual financial class about what to do with funds received from the stimulus package. Parent educators have also provided information on helping families to obtain the stimulus check if they haven't filed their taxes, and then also emphasize to the parents that they have to file taxes every year, and of course include the VITA program offered through United Way. Parent educators have also connected some parents with virtual therapy sessions. For parents with histories of anxiety or depression, isolation can be really challenging, and so parents have found the virtual counseling to be very helpful. What will happen next? Well, of course, things are uncertain. None of us has ever lived through a pandemic before, but what we anticipate happening in the months ahead is that the economy will gradually reopen. The moratorium, which currently exists on utility shutoffs and evictions, will be lifted. In fact, DTE has stated that they will start utility shutoffs on June 1st. We still don't know when the moratorium on evictions will be lifted, but we know that as utility bills and rents come due again, they will need a lot of help to keep their housing, electricity, and other basic needs met. To this end, we have increased the hours of our resource specialist at our resource center and begun processing barrier busters requests before the moratoriums are lifted. Our housing team is preparing for a huge increase in need, as well as a huge increase in their caseloads once the moratorium on evictions is lifted. Most economists are predicting a long-term recession, and SOS families have historically been hurt first and worst in any economic crisis. So how can you help? Well, certainly follow SOS on social media and help spread the word about the resources we're providing. Stay up to date by subscribing to our e-news listed there. Let us know if you see a need and if you think that SOS might be able to help. Stay in touch through these contacts. My information is listed there as well. Please, if you have any ideas on how we might help out there in the community, please reach out and let us know. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Rhonda.